Hi, and welcome to Yeshivat Shiva Aver. I'm Rabbi David Katz. This is Parashas Vayigash. The name of the article, What If? What if? Just to get some insight right off the bat, 'cause I like this title. The title really got me good this week. The basic premise the article coming from the Parsha. What if life is horrible? What if life is mundane? What if life sucks? That's the classic mantra people say, is it not? But on the other hand, what if life is great? What if life has meaning? What if life is exhilarating? What if it's real? What if it's true? I think a lot of people are on the middle of this fence. A lot of people have not seen a great life. And I'm not talking money and toys and all these things. I'm talking real divinity. As a kid, having been privileged to have watched Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, which April, I'm guaranteeing you watched that. Am I right? As a religious endeavor as a kid, am I right? You strike me as somebody that would have watched that. I know I did. And you have feedback on that one? As a kid, when you see the artifacts of what the movie represented. In the first movie of the series, the three, it's the Ark of the Covenant with the Kruvim on top. And I remember thinking and talking, and speaking of my mother who's visiting now, I would ask her, is it possible that we can find the Ten Commandments? And to me, that was real meaning to life as a kid. Nintendo didn't cut it. Could we find something real? A real ger. What is a ger? Something that doesn't belong in this world. Well, the Ark of the Covenant is one of those things. It is the absolute presence of a chariot to the divine. And yet we find it in our world. How awesome would that be? Indiana Jones was the closest thing that I ever saw. Maybe Star Wars and the lightsaber. And then to go macro beyond that into the lightsaber. Whoa. Wow, that was mental slip. The Beis Hamikdash. The Beis Hamikdash. The Beis Hamikdash. That was funny. The Beis Hamikdash is the macro. And then you have the Shekhinah dwelling in this world. And it keeps going macro. To the point of Olam Haba, Gan Eden, angels, everything in this world. And at the same time, we know that it exists in theory, even right now. I have a Yetzer Hara right now, and a Yetzer Tov, a good inclination and a bad one. And as the Zohar describes it, it's two angels. There's a Yetzer Hara in me, and it's an angel. And he would kill me if God gave him permission. So right now, he doesn't have permission to take my life. And it's a dynamic reality right now. And I say, let's wage war with the guy. It's a bit of a chutzpah, since the only reason why I'm alive is because God told him not to kill me. But life is this reality of spirituality and a God world. And yet what we can, at the same token, totally deny it and live in the most mundane setting possible. Some guy in a chat room with some people recording on just some machine, some class, that gets uploaded to some site. I mean, you can always be the skeptic in the negative appeal to things. Those are the drastic ends. And most people are somewhere in the middle. A glimpse of maybe something is real. And then, when it gets bad, it's not so bad. But Parashas Vayigash is kind of like that Hollywood film. Star Wars and Indiana Jones. I mean, how powerful is it? Of all the moments in the Torah, I don't know about you, but I'm willing to bet, a nice amount of emphasis that you probably felt on I am Yosef, Anochi Yosef, I am Joseph in front of the brothers. When he says that, there's really no other part in the whole Torah that resonates on that frequency. Am I wrong? Sinai we knew Sinai was coming. But it wasn't real, as much as, theologically it was a build-up from the creation itself, the giving of the Torah. We've been watching Joseph and the brothers go at it for, 3 weeks now? And again, if you view it even from the mundane, Judah says, hey, what are you doing? Joseph says, hey, what are you doing? Judah says, give us back our brother. Joseph says, hey, don't you have another? We know the story. But when Joseph stands there and says, I am Joseph, we all get the feeling. That is a real moment. I think anybody can read the Torah on that level and say, that was pretty interesting. And the funny thing is, they might call it a fantastic event. And with a little bit of faith that the Torah is true, and you realize Joseph, in fact, was there the whole time. Now put yourself in their shoes. This story of Mazal, of divine providence, happened. How fantastic of a life is that? Of a real script. And when we realize on top of that this is reality as we know it, if we can just click over from the mundane to something more powerful. Could it be that you actually have a soul? And it's the proverbial you. Do I have to talk to flesh and blood? Could it be that our interactions every day are divine script of the finger of God? And then the rest of the Parsha comes to light. Who in fact was Pharaoh? Who were the brothers? Who is Joseph? What was Egypt? And fast forward to today. Who am I? Who are you? Who is he? Who is she? Where am I? Where are you? In a fantastic setting, what if our world was divine? What if life didn't suck? What if the Torah was spinning around us every moment? That's what this article is about. What if? As we always start as an introduction to the Haftorah. We talk about the concept Mashiach ben Yosef dying. For anybody that doesn't know, there's a famous prophecy that Mashiach ben Joseph, the two-headed, spearheaded redemption by Joseph and David of the future offspring. Joseph is the one that is prophetically told to die. David operates as the Judahite under the pretext Judah saves Joseph. The redemption is salvaged and is completely successful. Why Joseph has to die, we'll get into that a little bit. But we know that the concept is that Joseph, in fact, doesn't die but lives. Eventually, he breaks through. And the basic fractal of that. Didn't Joseph die like 2 parshas ago? Jacob certainly thought it. The brothers certainly thought it. Okay, we were privy from our Torah vantage point. But for all intents and purposes, right? Joseph died. And that's our reality. Whatever Joseph is in our reality. Whatever that redemption process that stalls, right? When the peace deal goes on and we delay the dollar crash 1 more month and we get out of the episode and that episode and Putin backs down and Syria is salvaged and whatever other thing you want to throw in there. It's always like, oh, come on. Oh, we almost missed it. But yet in the Parsha itself, Joseph lives on. Od Yosef Chai. Now again, think about the Parsha and realize Joseph's standing there the whole time. Of course, we don't know that. If you're the brothers. We know that because we're reading the Torah. So in the time of the complete redemption, there will be that moment of, I am Joseph. Joseph still lives. And we'll say, look at that. This time he didn't die. This time Joseph didn't die. And then this time there's no Pharaoh on the other end of the equation. Life didn't suck finally. I know speaking a little harsh, but this is how people view reality. Let's face the facts in real life. People are not eager to wake up, go to work, go to bed. Kids are being beaten down, women abused. The mundane world doesn't have too much going on that's worth living about. But one day, what happens when life just doesn't equate to the negative anymore? Whether it be your life in the micro or the life in the macro. You might call that the Jew and the Ger got together. The two ends met, and all of a sudden it made a happy union. No more compromise in the marriage. Well, I can barely handle you, but let's coexist. What if you really like each other? What if there's a really good partnership? Some people in life might call that a blessing, but we see the blessing on TV. Underneath the veil, real reality strikes. There's always an exploitation. Somebody got exploited to make these little relationships work. But what about when on both sides it just works and no one got exploited? That's the aspect of the Davidic reality. King David lives. David Melech Yisrael Chai V'Kayam. On top of Joseph still lives. David's view of the universe, i.e. his kingdom, takes hold. Now, in our depressing parsha with Pharaoh and Joseph dying, there is that mantra, Joseph still lives. And we say, what if? What if we can see in the parsha that negative just blah going into exile? What if the spark of redemption is actually in there? And I'm not the first one to think this way. Because if you look at the Haftorah, Ezekiel, the prophetic wood of Joseph, wood of Judah, uniting, they are as one, like one in your hand, says God. Yet in my hand, they are one. In the very end of the Torah, what does it state? David, I will raise another David for you. He will be a king and a nasi, a leader. Whether it be that his kingdom is a natural element of creation, the power of God is manifest in that kingdom, or whether it's David's power himself to harness Mazal, to be the Ish Yehudi, the man of Judah. Which, by the way, Judah's name is Yud Kei Vav Kei. God's name with a Dalet stands for David. So the Haftorah is equating the real prophetic line in this Judah-Joseph friction. It doesn't have to be viewed as friction. It can be seen as the coming together of worlds where the result is I am Joseph, is my father still alive? And at that moment, where was Pharaoh? He's nowhere. Doesn't even matter. At that moment where the Davidic prophecy coming in, life is pretty good. David, who caters and ministers to that Aron of the Ark of the Covenant. The Zohar continues suit. As it talks about the essence of the soul, the nefesh, the ruach, the neshama. The three most basic elements of the soul that's enclosed in the body. David is the soul. And there's a principle we learn of David. If you attack him, you will fall down. And David is surprised that this is his reality. He knows he's a king, but does he really know what a king is? So remember the Fred Flintstone cartoon with Bam Bam? Is that his name? Bam Bam? He was a strong baby. Imagine if that was real. How would you tell a baby how strong he was if he was Bam Bam? King David is a king. He might not think of himself as a king. But the kingship is an element of nature. And when people approach the kingdom, there's a power. If you attack it, you'll fall down. Elijah is the power of the Ruach, that which clings to life and not death, such that Elijah lives forever. And Chanoch, Enoch, represents the level of Neshama. That which combines the two levels of David and Elijah. Those three levels of soul are the power of life. Life that eradicates death. That's the level of the redemption. Where no longer we stumble, but those that attempt to uproot the redemption, they will stumble themselves. The Zohar goes on into another fascinating element. Everyone knows that we pray in the morning, right? Not only in the morning, afternoon, and night, but the basic prayers are offered in the morning. Thank you, God, for bringing my soul back to my body when I woke up. Thank you, God, blah, blah, blah. Thank you, God. And this is all coming from merit. But there's another element of life that comes from Mazal. My children, my other half, my life, and my sustenance. This is what we say is more difficult to bring to us than God splitting the sea. And when the Zohar informs you that you have to pray for that and thank God for that. And most people understand that when you eat, after you eat, you say Birkat HaMazon. Grace after the meals. What the Zohar lets you know is, yeah, we're thanking God for the food. That's a fact. But don't just view it as, thank you, God, for feeding me. Have a nice day. The time of eating, when you're done, you shall eat, you'll be satiated, you will bless. Is with the time we take to thank God for mazal, for sustenance that God brings to us. And we have to learn, it's like fishing. We have to learn how to react and work with God to get that sustenance. So after the meals and when you eat, that's when you pray with intention of thanking God for the mazal. How did you get your food today? God sent it to you and you caught it. That's the blessing of Birkat HaMazon. On that level, the entire world, whoever operates on this level of mazal, understanding that it's a catch and toss with God, that means you've risen up to understand the hand that gave you. And you have brought that sustenance in this world, and you have become the embodiment of God's hand in creation. He has entrusted you with that hand. And you have brought action into this world called poil. Action. If you have done that, you are involved in matters above this world, and you are affecting this world. You're not just taking handouts like a snake. Rather, you understand the hand that gave it to you, and you understand the hand that gives it to you to give to others. That is the nature of mazal. On that level, not only is that person merit the world to come and all these things, it is an absolutely clear understanding that he has a portion in the Torah in its entirety. And we're not talking permission and the permission slip and have your parents sign and bring it back on Tuesday. We're saying the Torah now, as your soul, requires it as its sustenance. All Torah comes from mazal. You're going to be getting the Torah whether you like it or not. Shabbos is now part of your life whether you like it or not. Again, it comes to you. You don't go to it. So if we were to say that we go to it and it's a level to attain, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. Well, what is that? That's your wisdom saying how great you are. But if God is sending you the sustenance, God sends you what you need, and you're cooperating. Are we to say that you're going to turn away from God? By definition, these things will come to you. That's the introduction from the Haftorah and the Zohar. Joseph was with a prime example of mazal. The brothers came to him. Everything came, the prophecy, the dreams, Pharaoh, everything came to him. The entire world's sustenance came to Joseph. That's that level of Od Yosef Chai, Joseph still lives. Now, let's give a bit of a transition. Life as we know it. In the parsha itself, Joseph works for Pharaoh. The brothers come. Just normal, boring stories of a book that doesn't really add up to much. The Torah is a fantastic account of fantastic stories in a language we probably don't understand. It's not that special. If I keep the Torah or I'm religious, it's for self-righteousness and my merit in the world to come. Now contrast that with this is Joseph. The original Joseph program with Pharaoh and Egypt in exile and the meaning of life as we know it in its fractal form. We can see this in our daily lives if we fast forward. Now, to give context, backtrack 1 second. You're just a boring guy or girl, and you work at a boring job. Your boss is boring. TV is boring. Nothing is real. Boring, boring, boring. The girl at work just tells stories. The guy at work just tells stories. What'd you do last night? Well, went out with the kids and just boring. Nothing matters. So I might as well focus on myself and make a lot of money and brag and this and that and self-deify myself. Now again, contrast that. What if the Torah is going in real time? What if the characters of the Torah just spiral in our lives? And the more we are in alignment with real divine reality, you can start to see the story emanate. Maybe one day you see the Jew and the Ger get together, and you get a glimpse of that I am Joseph moment. The boss, suckers the Joseph program in you to come and work for him and set everything up. He reaps the benefits, and he says, hey, bring your friends, have them work for me. You have that Pharaoh moment of being duped into slavery. This is called Torat Gilgul, the real definition of reincarnation of the Torah. It's not that I am a Gilgul of Moses, therefore Moses is me, and that's not really how it works, necessarily. The way it works is, now, again, this is just an example. Let's say, right now I'm holding back, and you guys are there's people that are strangers, but really we're a special soul family in this chat room, and we're all brought together for this occasion. We've been attending these classes, the same people every week, and I just lose it right now and say I am Joseph. And you all say, no way, And we were having this exchange, and but you say, but not I am Joseph. It comes out, I say, I'm surprising you guys. My name is not Rabbi Katz. It's actually Rabbi Jacobson. I found out that my name was changed at birth. So a fantastic story. And you can see that there's like a remnant to the story. The people, we live parallel lives of the Torah. Rabbi Nachman calls this Torat Emunah, the Torah of faith. And if you refine your vessel, you can see the part that's emanating with you in it. Maybe you have a brother that you battle. It's the Jacob Esav program. Maybe you're the brother left behind, and everyone overlooks you, and you're the special one. It's the David program. Maybe you're the insightful one that no one respects. It's the Samuel program. And the more you can identify with the Torah and its characters and its flow and the efforts, and then eventually the Mazal takes over. Right, for the Joseph program, now there's a brothers against you program. You're saying, God, how did this happen? I always liked Joseph, and now the brothers are here. I feel like I'm part of the story. And if you repair the story, you get a spark of that episode in you. You become the mochin or intellect of the story. You become it. Joseph and the brothers saga becomes a part of you. When you defeat Esav, your evil inclination, you're the Jacob program. You get that Jacob spark in you. You bring the shalom peace out of Esav into you. The more we can recognize the Torah going on, you realize your boss is the Pharaoh program. And then you'll know what he's going to do. He's going to say, bring your family to me. You can follow along. That's when it becomes mazal. When it becomes mazal, it's God's hand emanating. You can see the nourishment, sustenance coming down. You now can work with the creation. God has empowered you. It came to you. That is the man program. The true man. Not you running to it and let me tell God how to do it. Eventually, in the end of days, this will happen. The Joseph program is all of us. We all have a little spark in us. Anyone with half a soul and half an ounce of desire to bring good in the world. The Vilna Gaon says that's part of the Mashiach ben Yosef program in you. And the more you learn and work on your vessel to just get a clear view, you see, maybe I am doing some good in the world. Every time there's that Amalekite doubt there to bring you down. You got conned, you're duped, you're working for him, you say, oh, that was fun. I was going to do something big, but then, just life stunk. There it goes again. On to the next one. Then you go to the next one and you build yourself up and this is going to be the one I'm going to get my break. And maybe you do get your break. You're now a famous country singer. And now you find the exploitation in the macro. We tell you what to sing. We tell you what to wear. How do you like that fame now? Of course, they don't show you that on TV. Oh, life got horrible again. When does it get great? If you stick with it, and really stick with it, in the end of days, God will bring you through the real grime to stick with it. And one day, you get a tap on your shoulder. God says, by the way, Od Yosef Chai. Joseph lives. You say, really? Then I would expect the David program to commence. And what does God do? He brings your partner in front of you, and you have that I am Joseph moment. The ger finds the Jew finds the ger. There's no longer Pharaoh. He's in the background doing something totally different. The tables have turned, an element of the world to come. As King David prophesies, in the end of days, the gerim will be the men of nobility and not Pharaoh. To where the Jew is destined to end up. The Jew is going out into exile, trying to be a light, finds the ger in position to reflect the light, and what you have is a partnership. And again, this can very easily be the mundane. I know, looking back in my youth, as a Jew amongst all non-Jews in Ohio, now, with knowledge of the ger, you look back and you say, man, I was around gerim. But yet, as a child, without revelation, life was not fun. Of course, the rules changed. I didn't have my driver's license, and I couldn't do this, and I couldn't do that, because due to my age. But you look back and you see how ridiculous high school was. This one was popular for being a Amalekite. And of course you didn't like him. You were the Jewish kid. He was the Amalekite. The ger was conned into serving him. And you realize, amongst the myriad of difficulties, goyim, as in idolaters, gerim, non-Jews that were confused amongst the idolaters, why is life like this? Jews amongst all of them. Erev Rav, bad Jews amongst them. And then you say, why don't I get along with the Jews? Some I do, some I don't. Life is confusing. Especially that bar mitzvah age where the Jew is saying, man, I'm really Jewish right now. Why? Because I have to go into the synagogue and say my Haftorah and have my friends come to the party at the hotel. It's a very strange time in a child's life to have this Jewish awakening. You can't think of anything more antithetical. Right when pizza and popcorn take first priority, now I have to go study with the rabbis. I don't even know what he's talking about. I'm trying to play basketball, and I have to go study this archaic Torah thing, whatever that is, from the secular Jewish point of view. But what it is, it's an encapsulation of time. You knew you were Jewish back then. They knew you were Jewish because you were inviting them to your bar mitzvah. This is the idea of the Jew in exile. And should he be looking for truth now and then, you can see who was who. Who was who. And it's not so, once you get the Torah knowledge in you, it's not so opaque. Fast forward to the present time, and you can see what it is to run into a ger at the end of the tunnel rather than a Moloch, Pharaoh, and vice versa. The ger is saying, is there anybody out there? SOS. Bunch of idolaters, some Amalekites. Why am I in this world? What's it about? Do I even matter? They say I don't have a soul. When the Jew and the ger hook up, that life is not so great element goes away. Now let's use the Enlightened model. The Jew is indoctrinated to say it's just me, my people. The ger says, I feel in me there's this whole thing going on. When they get together and have that I am Joseph moment, a portal and bubble of world to come consciousness erupts. The simcha and joy of the temple is bestowed. Because light can be seen, truth is revealed, and all those players in the peripheral, Moloch and the Goyim and the Erevrav, every type of impurity, of people not having realized what the Torah is about, just kind of exist. All of a sudden that mundane world goes away. So now we look back to when the girl telling the stories, and now it can be seen in light with context. There was method to the madness when people come to work and tell their stories, and oh, Joan was me with the kids again, and all these things. Life can have meaning. You lose this world of Asiya and you rise to a spiritual plane above. Life can make sense. And you can see the Amalekite program, how it works. And then it can be fixed according to King David. And these Goyim, the idolaters, all of a sudden you find out they're a ger inside. They love God. They're really yearning for God. They just don't know that there's a concept of ger in the world. The Jew has light to give. He was not told what a ger is on the other side. Everyone was missing the story in that mundane world that life is just not fun. But what if the knowledge was given? What if Yosef lives? What if they met up and they said, hey, you're really real? He says, you are too. If I'm real, that means you're real. If I'm real, that means you're real. We're real. Torah is real. The incarnation is real. The Mazal is real. The blessings flow. Everything changes. The Torah becomes a book of people. Not even the Goy and the idolater and the Erevrav. They're people. They're types of people. Civilization roaming a globe. As King David had the vantage point of Israel. And he saw what the world is. The state of Israel is located that you have an objective view of the universe. And King David went out with war. He saw every type of person. He saw reality. The Akum has a position. They can become a ger. The Amal. Everyone has a way of rectification. The mundane can become holy. But there are other nations in the world, such as Gomer, the site of World War II, where there was no Jewish reality. If there's no Jewish reality, there's no ger reality. Life is just boring. Let's just go blow stuff up. And they tried. But yet embedded in World War II, you're going to see 1948 come to the state of Israel. They saw something, but they didn't know what they were seeing. Life didn't have to be miserable. The creation and seeds of light of the redemption were in that World War II saga. We just didn't know what to call it. Light, the Jew, the ger. We called it the ego self-gratification. The final solution. Yet in that final solution, the Jewish question was answered by Herzl. So there was a spark inside Germany, World War II. And it was going somewhere. Then you have the Gog and Magog setting. The wars of the nations, their view of the universe, whatever they see, and their mundane reality. Eventually plays out on a superimposed land of Israel. Like a movie projector in 3D. The world of the mundane was projecting in Od Yosef Chai, Joseph Still Lives. The Torah becomes a dynamic interaction with God. In our reality, whether in past and present and future, and characters and times, and in flow of the universe and people, it becomes a book of faith, of life, of reality. Far superior than any lightsaber or Indiana Jones episode. It was exhilarating to keep up with the pace of the Torah. Backwards, forwards, time, dimensions. Struggling to keep pace with what do we call this type of reality? It's called divine mazal, energy of God. The Torah is real. And everywhere around you becomes magnified in this world of truth. They become a voice box of the truth. Therefore, if there's the Amalekite, he's speaking what is Amalek. To understand the picture of reality. How we can bring that Od Yosef Chai, Joseph Lives reality into fruition so that the Jew and the Ger, when they talk, they are revealing reality. And it becomes contagious. Because they are real biblical players talking. Working together out of love. And at the same time, with a distorted view, it can be mundane and just clashing of conflict. The Jew and the non-Jew. This type and that type. He thinks I'm this, he thinks I'm that. The fact is, your whole life was filled with these moments. From that time you were a kid. And it continues. The people are not random, they are real. In any moment you can flip the switch and understand the prophetic life. The Gilgal life. The working out the movements on your walk with God. You can choose to be a person of light, to be a Jew, to be a light to the nations, to be the Ger, to be working with reflecting that light. It comes with an alignment of reality. Having the courage to stand up and say, yes, there's a Torah. What about the Torah of Shem? What about that the non-Jews have souls? What about that they have world to come? What about that they affect change in this world? What about studying Mashiach ben Yosef when everyone says he's going to die and maybe he lives? Challenging the buck, going out of the system, allowing yourself to have the vessels to understand reality. Asking what is the nature of this or that. Having morals to stand up for women and children's rights. Again, you can very easily turn your head away and say life is boring, it's mundane, who cares, another tragic day. The idea of Mashiach ben Yosef dying is that mundane reality. So close yet so far. There's always that element. Joseph almost got there and he served Pharaoh and we turn to Shemos in a couple weeks and all of a sudden he doesn't know Joseph anymore. What does Pharaoh say to Joseph? Bring them to me and tell them I'll give them everything. Every cult started that way. Then it says Joseph placed his hand over Jacob's eyes. Jacob came and blessed Pharaoh. Now God did say, I'm going there with you to make this happen. This is where people get stuck. You get told, go check out this job, and you say, yeah, it's great, this is going to be awesome, we're going to save the universe. Then you find out you got stuck, they're sapping all your energy, you're living paycheck to paycheck, maybe you're saving, whatever it is, but you're stuck. It becomes mundane. Now you want to just go home and watch a movie. Wake up and hit the snooze on the alarm clock. The only way out is to turn that death of Joseph, and you are that Joseph, and find that Joseph still lives. God put you there. If you're in idolatry, he put you there. So get out. Let God bring you out. There's a David at the other side. For the Jew, there's a Ger. For the Ger, there's a Jew. For the Amalekite, there's a way out. For the idolater Goy, there's a way out. There's always the story developing. It's never over. The tree of life is what is. Joseph was stuck in a very familiar position to Pharaoh. Pharaoh says, I understand Mazal very well. Pharaoh knew the time structure of Egypt and the famine. He considered himself a deity of Egypt and the river. But he has the bad dreams and he says, what does this mean? I'm the deity of Egypt. How can it be there's anything bad? Because back then the world was mechanical, like clockwork. That's the nature of the Nile over the land of Israel. Joseph comes and he has a prophetic knowledge of what's happening. Pharaoh says, wow, this guy can really give me some good stuff. Pharaoh allows Joseph to act like a god. And there you have your idolatry, ego, nachash, infested self, evil inclination. Eventually, God will say, kill him. Joseph dies. By sucking the family members in, take me to your leader type of thing. Take me to the cult leader and member. Every evil comes from that. Every idolatry comes from that. Joseph got duped. This is part of God's existence of creation by creating evil. God says, I'm sending you guys down there. But remember, at the same time, Joseph never died. He was alive the whole time and orchestrating. You can view it as Joseph was a slave to Pharaoh, or Joseph was a man of destiny. And he says, I am Joseph. At that moment, he and the brothers were that magical moment of the template of the Jews and the Gerim. Even though they were all Gerim, you can look at it from the point of, it can be looked at a million ways. Heaven and earth, the Jew and the Gerim, male and female, Joseph and the brothers. King David prophecies. What is the redemption? What is it? Redemption is the 7 laws of Noah being brought out on mankind to make a based-in tribunal to bring down Gog and Magog. That when mankind clarifies the laws, then God can start becoming miraculous, intervening, because there's a precedent on earth to act. That's what King David is on about over and over and over in his Psalms. That's when life gets good, exciting, revealed. It's always good, but revealed good. He says that all through the nations, there are members of Gerim who are called nobility, who recognize Jerusalem, who are seeking for those Noahide laws. So the Jew is destined to run into Pharaoh. The Ger is destined to miss the Jew. But when the synapses connect and the laws go out and Joseph is tired of dying and living starts to commence, as Joseph always did live, then we start to connect. The Jew starts to find the Ger with intention and recognize him and share that I am Joseph moment. Death goes away. They live in pockets of life, revealing reality, creating light in the universe for others to see and say, hey, I don't need to go to Pharaoh anymore. In fact, I'm with my brother right now. It's all in how you choose to see the universe. If you look in this world, the Ger is just call him a goy, a guy. The Jew's just some guy. Doesn't care about the non-Jew. You can be as negative as you want to be. But if you have the ability to look above and you hear each other, perceptions change. You say, man, what I was indoctrinated with as a youth is not correct. There's a world out there, a divine universe. The Gerim saying the Torah is correct. God is here. The Shekhinah does dwell here. And these connections are all the time. King David was the one prophesying, don't you guys see what's going on? King David was looked down upon Pharaoh. Even Shaul had no chance on David. Everybody else said, David, what are you looking at? There's nothing here. You're daydreaming. You're fantasizing. David saw above, and they only chose to look below. But what David talked about was the men of nobility are destined to come out. There will be the Joseph-Judah program getting together. All roads will eventually lead back to Zion instead of Cairo. The Joseph Lives program will happen. Those moments of complete redemption will happen. The bottom line to the equation is God is good. Even if you think life is bad, it means that you just haven't had the revelation. But you have to know that it's good. At any moment to change the perception, it will become very good. Song of Songs by King Solomon is called the Book of Love. King Solomon was blessed by God to invest all of his mentality into one book, inspired by Shem. He wrote 3, but Song of Songs is love. And one of the main themes that you can put there is the love between the Jew and the Ger. When you read through, it just works. Also in Tehillim, you see that David calls himself a Ger, the love of the Jew and the Ger. Anything short of seeing that is just that Pharaoh program, the Amalek program that separates the two. Anytime they want to get together, you find that Amalek program static in between. And that's what we don't like, that static. That's when life is horrible and we get depressed and we say, I'm dying, I'm dying, I'm dying. But really, you're living, you're living, you're living. Change the perspective. You have a pull to go to Pharaoh. But when you recognize that your brother, if you would just leave your backyard, is right next door. The Pharaoh has the pizzazz of, look at me and I'll make you a god. And you say, wow, my ego feels pretty good, thanks. It's that Ger-Jew combo that really brings that Joseph still lives. The 7 laws of morality that bring light in the environment. Wherever you are in your environment, whether it's the workplace, when you get together, you see the reality. Then that microcosmic reality becomes the fractal of truth. It becomes the Torah of Emunah. The Torah of faith. If you can believe that you're a Jew, and you can believe that you're a Ger, both in love with God, both in a love affair with God, and you really believe it, you start to become it. And that empowers you to read anything divine, and you can become it. You can ingest anything into your being. If you want to meditate on the Elijah going to heaven program, learn it, meditate on it. See it in your life. David anointed, Samuel anointing David, the creation of the world, the Shabbat experience, the manna falling from heaven, Sinai revelation. Ingest it in your being. You will live it. And when the two get together, you will experience it together, sharing it together. Very male-female scenario, a partner helping a partner in love. And it all goes to the wayside when that Pharaoh static gets in the middle and kills it every time. In fact, they'll put a dagger in you. What do you think this is, Mount Sinai? That's an ASAF program, really getting you where you're weak. The Ger says, hey, you know what this is? I think this is Sinai. Look at the difference of that. How do you want to feel when you're having a Sinai moment? The guy says, what do you think this is, Mount Sinai? Get to work. Nothing hurts worse than that. Ugh, Mashiach and Yosef just died. Joseph just lives. How? The Ger and the Jew get together and say, hey, this sounds like Sinai. And he says, yeah, I was just reading this. And you go on and on and on. And the Torah of Chassidus comes alive. That's Joseph still lives. That is David lives and endures. That's the man program of taking the mazal. They both share that common experience, I am Joseph. And everyone around you can feel the contagiousness of it. The Amalekite doesn't have a chance. Or the Goy idolater, whatever word you want to call the Erev Rav Jew. In fact, at that point, the Ger title goes away, Jew goes away. They become people, souls with God. It becomes a godly awareness endeavor. It becomes you are your name. Everyone's good. That is a Tzilas coming to this world. The negativity is gone. A microcosmic redemption has erupted. Love is in the air. Life is great. You're living biblical truth. And the best part is God is good. It doesn't have to go away. And there's always that fine line between the mundane and the holy. You're always one perspective away from redemption. You choose to look left. Why don't you look right? You want the glory from this guy who's baiting you. Where you're the hero in the situation that recognizes you is just one look away. You're trying to measure up to somebody else's standards. The partnership and learning between the Kohen Tzedek and the Ger Tzedek is right there. The righteous priest and the righteous Ger are right there. God positions it all the time. They pass all the time. They even smile. They secretly love each other. He says, man, he's such a good guy. And the other guy says, he's such a good guy. Why don't you get together? You may even be in dialogue and you don't appreciate what you have. The more the faith erupts, the love becomes in the air. Nothing is an accident. Everything is the finger of God. I'll close on this point to show how when you just get into the mentality of Joseph lives, we can see that God becomes invested in your spirit, in your breath, in your hands. As I close the writing of the article, Joseph was there living the whole time. We all know what that means, right? We thought Joseph was dead, the brothers, this and that. He was there living. Joseph was there living the whole time. You know that. You know that. And as we saw, he was dying to say it with conviction. Did you get the double entendre? That's really a million entendre. He was dying to say it with conviction. That is Mazal 101. That was not my intention to say the Mashiach ben Yosef dying code in the living code. It just came out. That's called mochen. It just works. That's how you know you're in it. You're there. People talk like this all the time. If you can listen, pick it up. That's how you bring the connections together. Be aware of those things that people say. And you'll see that they're just mimicking the Torah partiot to the Torah over and over again. Something so mundane as, Joseph was there living, as we saw, he was dying to say with conviction. Make it holy and realize, look at this Siyata D'Shmaya. In an effort to show how Joseph was alive, the inevitable Joseph has to die program, why was he dying? To say it with conviction. Joseph was alive. The only death he knew was he was dying to say, I am Joseph with conviction. That's all for this week. Thank you very much. And we're back on track for Wednesday. See you in the Thinking Shabbos class to resume on Wednesday.